What makes a story sound native, not just correct? It was 11 p.m., the rain was pounding the windows, and she was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her phone. Then it rang. She picked it up, and everything changed. Okay, did you feel that? That tension, that pull, that feeling of being inside the scene? That entire story, 4 sentences, used exactly 2 grammar structures: past continuous and simple past. That's it. Here's what you're going to walk away with today. By the end of this video, you'll be able to tell any story in English, a memory, an experience, something that happened to you, and it will sound cinematic, not textbook, not stiff, native. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. I already know these tenses. I studied them. Fair. But knowing a rule and using it to make someone feel something, that's 2 completely different skills, and most learners only get taught the first one. Here's your first value right now before we go any further. When you use past continuous for the background and simple past for the action, you create a movie in the listener's mind. Background, action, that's the whole formula. Keep that in your head. The 2 version story, same facts, completely different feeling. Because in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you the same story twice. One version is going to feel flat, forgettable, almost annoying. The other one, you'll want to hear it again. And the only difference will be these 2 tenses. This video is for you if you'll pass the basics. Present, past, but your stories still feel like you're reading from a report. This is where that changes. Let's go. Part 2. All right, so let me set the stage here. No pun intended. Most intermediate learners, when they try to tell a story in English, they do something like this. Yesterday, I went to the store. I bought milk. I came home. I watched TV. Technically, correct. Every single verb is right. But it sounds like a police report. Why? Because there's no background. There's no world around the action. It's just event, 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 event. And here's the thing native speakers do automatically, without even thinking about it. They layer, they place you inside the moment before the action happens. They build a scene, then they move through it. That's the cinematic trick. And the tools they use without realizing it are past, continuous, and simple past working together. The most common mistake and why it kills the tension. Now, most learners who've studied this know the basic rule. Use past continuous for something in progress, simple past for something that interrupted it. And that's not wrong, but it's incomplete. And that gap right there is where the most common mistake lives. I'll show you exactly what that mistake is in. Block 2. First, let's build the foundation. PRT 3 in this block. You're going to understand exactly how these 2 tenses work together. Not as grammar rules, but as a storytelling structure. Okay, let's talk about how stories are actually built. Think of any scene in a movie. There's always 2 layers. Layer 1, what's already happening when the scene starts. The ambient stuff, the background, the world. Layer 2, the event that breaks through that background. The thing that moves the story forward. In English, past continuous handles layer 1, simple past handles layer 2. That's it. That's the whole architecture. Past continuous equals the stage. Simple past equals the actor walking onto it. Let's make this concrete. Here's the story told version A, no layers. I walked to the coffee shop. I ordered a latte. A man dropped his phone. I picked it up. He smiled. He was famous. Okay, you got the information. But did you feel anything? Probably not. Now, version B, I was walking to the coffee shop, headphones in, not really paying attention to anything. The place was packed. Everyone was moving fast, doing their Monday thing. I ordered my latte, turned around, and a man dropped his phone right in front of me. I picked it up, handed it back. He smiled. I didn't recognize him at first. Then I did. The 2 version stories, same facts, exact same sequence of events. But version B, you can feel the Monday energy, the noise, the speed. Why? Because all those ing forms was walking, was packed, were moving. They built the stage and then dropped, picked up, smiled. Those simple past verbs fired like shots, clean, sharp, impactful. Now let's break down the structure more precisely. Past continuous is formed like this: subject plus was, were, plus verben. She was reading. They were arguing. I was just standing there. It describes actions that were already in progress at a specific moment in the past. Think of it as a film still, a frozen, ongoing action. Simple past is the movement. Subject plus past form of the verb. She read the message. They argued. I walked away. It describes actions that started and ended at a specific moment. One shot, done. Here's the pattern you'll see again and again in native storytelling. Past continuous give sets the scene. When or suddenly plus simple past breaks the scene. I was just minding my business when my boss called. We were laughing, having a great time, and then the lights went out. She was about to leave when he finally told her. Do you hear the rhythm? Long, ongoing background. Sharp, sudden action. That contrast, that's where the tension lives. One more thing before we move on. You don't always need to mix them in the same sentence. Sometimes you build 2 or 3 past continuous sentences to establish the world. Then you drop a simple past and it hits like a punch. It was late. Everyone was asleep. The city was quiet. Then the alarm went off. 4 sentences, 3 background, 1 action. And that last one, it lands. You now understand the architecture. You can see the stage. You can feel where the action goes. You're not just memorizing a rule anymore. You're seeing how stories are actually built. That's a completely different skill level, and you just crossed into it. Part 4. In this block, you're going to learn the 3 trigger patterns that signal when to switch tenses, and spot the mistake that kills narrative tension before it ever builds. The director's trick coming up in block 3, and stay with me. Because after this, I'm going to show you something most grammar teachers never talk about. It's the reason native speakers control how you feel at every moment of a story. I'm calling it the director's trick. Okay, so you've got the foundation. Background equals past continuous. Action equals simple past. But real stories aren't that clean, right? Real stories have transitions, shifts, moments where you're not sure which tense to use. That's where these 3 trigger patterns come in. Trigger pattern number 1, when plus sudden action. This is the classic. I was making dinner when the smoke alarm went off. She was just about to fall asleep when her phone buzzed. We were in the middle of a meeting when the power cut out. The word when signals that the simple past is about to interrupt the continuous. Something breaks in. Something changes the trajectory of what was happening. If you hear when in a story, expect a simple past right after it. And if you're telling a story, when is your signal to switch gears? Trigger pattern number 2, while plus parallel actions. This one is a little more nuanced. While sets up 2 things happening at the same time, and both of them can be in past continuous. While I was waiting in line, she was parking the car. He was reading. I was pretending to sleep. No interruption here. Just 2 streams of background happening simultaneously. But here's the subtlety, and this is where a lot of learners mess up. When one of those parallel actions ends, you switch to simple past. While he was reading, I finally fell asleep. The reading was ongoing, past continuous. The falling asleep was the event, simple past. Trigger pattern number 3, sequential, simple past for the spine of the story. Here's the pattern that experienced storytellers lean on hard. Once you've established the scene with past continuous, you can actually drop it completely and just run a chain of simple past verbs for the main events. She was nervous. Her hands were shaking slightly. She walked up to the door, knocked, waited. The door opened. He was standing there holding flowers. She laughed. He turned red. She let him in. See that? 2 past continuous lines at the start sets the mood. Then pure simple past carries the action all the way to the end. The background was established. Now you just move. The most common mistake. Alright, so what's the mistake I promised you? Here it is. Learners often use simple past for everything, including the background. and it creates a story that feels like a list, not a scene. I was tired, I drove home, traffic was bad. I stopped at a gas station. A weird guy approached me. Now compare. I was exhausted, just dragging myself home through terrible traffic. I pulled into a gas station, and this guy walked straight toward me. Same story. But version 2 uses past continuous to hold the mood, tired, dragging, traffic heavy. And then simple past fires in the key moments, pulled in, walked toward. The background isn't just grammar filler. It's emotional setup. When you get that right, the simple past hits harder. You now have 3 specific tools, 3 trigger patterns you can use on purpose. You're not just hoping the right tense comes to you. You're making deliberate choices like a writer, like a native speaker. That's not intermediate, that's advanced. Part 5, what makes a story sound native, not just correct? In this block, you're going to discover something most grammar courses skip entirely. How native speakers use tense shifts not just to be correct, but to make you feel things. The director's trick. Okay, here it is. The director's trick. Think about this for a second. A film director doesn't just point the camera and press record. They decide what to show you, when to show it, how long to linger on something. They control your emotional experience through those choices. Skilled English storytellers do the same thing. With tense, here's what I mean. When you slow down and use past continuous, stretch it out, layer it, dwell in it, you're telling the listener, this moment matters. You're making them sit inside the scene. The sun was setting. The music was playing softly from somewhere down the street. We were just sitting there on the steps, not saying much. Nothing has happened yet, but you're feeling something, aren't you? Nostalgia, warmth, stillness. That was all built with past continuous. No action, just atmosphere. Now, watch what happens when simple past fires into that atmosphere. Then she turned to me and said, I got the job. I'm moving to London next week. Boom. That one moment, turned, said, lands completely differently because of everything that came before it. The past continuous set you up emotionally. The simple past delivered the gut punch. That's the director's trick. You use past continuous to build the emotional stakes. Then simple past to cash them in. Let's go the other direction now. Sometimes you want urgency, speed, a feeling of events cascading out of control. In that case, you barely use past continuous at all. You run simple past, rapid fire. I heard something. I turned around. The door was open. I ran to the bedroom. The window was broken. My laptop was gone. I called 911. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Notice, even in this fast-paced section, there are 2 past continuous moments. The window was broken. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Those aren't action beats. They're emotional punctuation. They slow you down just enough to feel the shock. And then the simple past picks back up. This is the level most learners never reach. Because they're thinking about grammar. Native speakers aren't thinking about grammar. They're thinking about feeling. They're asking subconsciously, do I want my listener inside this moment, or do I want to move them forward? Inside the moment gives past continuous. Move them forward gives simple past. That's the whole game. And once you understand that, you stop asking which tense is correct and start asking, what do I want my listener to feel right here? That's not grammar anymore. That's storytelling. This is the shift. Right here, right now. You just moved from someone who knows these tenses to someone who uses them with intention. You're not translating from your native language anymore. You're thinking in story. You're thinking in English, and that is what makes the difference between sounding like a learner and sounding like a speaker. Part Lil. This is where it all gets practical. You're going to get a 5-step framework you can use today, and a full practice story to rebuild from scratch using everything you've learned. Here's the thing about storytelling in English. You can't just understand it. You have to rehearse it. So let me give you a system. Something you can use every single time you're about to tell a story in English. The 5-step storytelling framework. Step 1. Set the world. 2, 3 past continuous sentences. Before anything happens, put your listener inside the scene. Where were you? What was happening around you? What was the mood? It was a Tuesday evening. I was walking home from work, kind of zoning out. The streets were quiet, that post-rush hour stillness. That's your stage. Now, the actor can walk onto it. Step 2, trigger the action with when or suddenly. Use one of your trigger words to break the scene. Drop into simple past. Make it clean, fast, punchy. When I turned the corner, I saw something on the sidewalk. 1 sentence. Stage broken. Story started. Step 3. Build the spine in simple past. Now you chain your key events in simple past, first, then, and then. Each verb is a step forward. I walked over. Looked down. It was a wallet. I picked it up, checked inside. There was a license, a name, an address, a photo. I recognized the street. It was 3 blocks away. Step 4. Slow down the emotional moments with past continuous. When you hit a beat that deserves weight, pause it. Slip back into past continuous to make the listener sit in the feeling. I was standing there, holding a stranger's wallet, not sure what to do. A part of me was tempted to just leave it. Let them breathe inside that moment. Then, step 5. Step 5, end on a strong, simple past beat. Close it. 1 action, sharp and final. Then I just knocked on the door. That's it. Simple. Intentional. Complete. Practice story. Retell this. Here's a story in flat mode, just the facts. Your job, rebuild it using the 5-step framework. Version to retell. Last year I was on a train. It was late. A man sat next to me. He started talking. He told me his wife had just died. He showed me a photo. I didn't know what to say. I gave him my coffee. He cried. He got off at the next stop. Attempt gives error gives validate. First, just try to retell it out loud. Don't edit yourself, then listen back or read back and ask, where did I drop the background too early? Where did I use simple past where past continuous would have created more feeling? Then rewrite 1 section using the director's trick. Build emotional stakes with past continuous. Cash in with simple past. Validation checkpoint. Does your version make the listener feel the silence of that late train? Does the moment he showed the photo hit differently because of everything around it? If yes, you got it. What makes a story sound native, not just correct? So, let's bring this home. You came in asking, maybe without even knowing you were asking it, what makes a story sound native? And here's the answer. It's not vocabulary. It's not accent. It's not complex grammar. It's layering. It's knowing when to slow the camera down and when to cut fast. It's using past continuous to build the world your listener steps into, and simple past to move them through it, sharp, clean, intentional. That's what native speakers do. Not because they studied it, but because they've been doing it since childhood. And now, you know the mechanics behind it. The mistake isn't using the wrong tense. The mistake is not thinking about the feeling you want to create. Now you know better. The director's trick isn't magic, it's just intention. And you have it now. From this point on, you're not someone who knows the past continuous rule. You're someone who uses language to put people inside moments. You're a storyteller in English. That's who you are now. Take the practice story from block 6, retell it out loud, and drop your version in the comments. I'll read them and I'll give you real feedback. See you next class.